English translation. 327th contact, Tuesday, 23rd April 2002, 01:33 hours.
Here I am, my friend. What is so urgent that you must see me immediately, as Florina explained to me?
It is indeed most urgent, for something most unpleasant and regrettable has occurred. This, in relation to your open appearance on the 14th of March, when you gave a demonstration with your ship to the 3 men from Thurgau over there, which was really something, at least for these people. One of the brothers could not cope with the whole thing, which is why one of the men called me by telephone once or twice a day during the whole of the last week and asked me to meet with them. After some back and forth, I agreed to do so last Friday, but I was then asked to come to the meeting alone. I was also asked if the wives of the 3 could attend the meeting, which I also agreed to. At the weekend, the telephone calls intensified, and on Sunday noon I was urged to come to Will or Eschlikon for a meeting immediately, because it was very urgent. But that was impossible for me, because I have to be at the center on the 3rd weekend for the group members, unless an exceptional case can be arranged. But I was not left in peace, and when after 10 o'clock at night they called again and said that the 3 men had called their supervisor and had been given a day off for Monday and therefore did not have to go to work. Just to be able to talk to me, I agreed to talk to the people on Monday yesterday afternoon, but I remained with the arrangement that they would call me at 14:00 hours to arrange a meeting point with me. Yesterday, however, it was just 13:15 hours when the telephone rang again, and the same man was on the phone, and again said that it was very urgent to now have the promised conversation with each other. And since I had no one available to take me somewhere by car, we agreed that I would be in Hamburg in 15 minutes to await the 3 of them. Hamburg is right behind the forest in front of Sitzburg, and just about 10 minutes away from the center. To cut a long story short, I walked through the forest, and just as I arrived at the single Hamburg house, a car drove up with 3 men in it. When the car stopped, it turned out to be the expected ones, to whom I then got into the car, after which we drove to Sadeleg, where we had the desired conversation. It was explained to me that the 2 brothers and their companion were childhood friends, and together they had built a 3-family house in St. Galatian in which the 3 lived with their wives and children, although the children were already fledged, married themselves, and had left. But now the hammer. The younger brother and the friend apologized to me in all pitches for the fact that they had always called me a nutcase, a fantasist and a swindler, etc. But now, through their experience, had become different persons and were convinced that everything with my explanations, statements and photos, etc. was correct, because what they had experienced on the 14th of March had opened their eyes by force and shown them the truth. They said that they had to come to terms with this, and that it no longer made sense to continue lying to themselves. And again they apologized, surely about 10 or 12 times. Meanwhile, the older brother, 56 years old, as I was told, was blathering on with all kinds of nonsense, such as, "That cannot be true, and it is not true either. There are no other humans outside the earth. It is simply not true, because otherwise Jesus Christ would not have come to earth, but would have gone to the others on the other planets, etc., etc." So he was always talking in between. Of course, this was disturbing, and I felt uneasy, thinking that the man was slowly going crazy, or was a sectarian who had already gone crazy, so I tried to calm him down. But apparently I could not get through to him, even though it seemed that he calmed down a bit. And then his brother and his friend explained to me that the man was strongly religious and deeply religious, and belonged to the so-called Black Catholicism, while neither of them had much to do with religious faith themselves, just enough to go to Mass on Sundays and on special holidays. Moreover, the man, that is to say the Catholicism believer, was very vulnerable in terms of his faith and therefore in bondage to religion, etc. And this is the main reason why he cannot overcome what he has experienced and slowly becomes more and more confused. They all thought that this would disappear again, which is why they waited a month or so before telephoning me. But now, they said, instead of an improvement, they only saw that he was getting worse and worse, so they hoped that I would help them by talking to the man and explaining everything to him. And besides, it was explained, they could not talk to anyone but their wives about everything, because the people in their place of residence would not understand the whole thing, so they would only make themselves so ridiculous that they would have to sell their house and move away. But now everything is slowly escalating, because for 3 weeks now the mentally disturbed man has not been able to go to work and has had to see a psychiatrist twice a week, which has not been successful so far. But the whole experience with your beamship had other consequences than just the aforementioned form of the man's going crazy, because in the afternoon of the 13th of April his brother, who was 2 years younger, and his friend had caught him just at the moment when he wanted to put a loaded pistol to his temple in the cellar and send himself to the afterlife. But that is not all, dear Ptaah, because this evening at about 21:40 HRs, after correcting or talking to our people in the kitchen, another phone call came from the brother of the man who had gone mad. He told me bad news, namely that his sister-in-law, who had already gone to bed at 20 hours and was waiting for her husband, who did not come, found him unconscious on the floor of the living room when she went to look for him. On the table was an empty pack of strong sleeping pills and a half-full bottle of beer. So the emergency doctor was called immediately, who took the unconscious man to the nearest hospital. That is what I know so far. His brother promised me that he would call me immediately if he knew anything more about his brother's condition. And yes, I should also tell you that you are not to blame, because in the end they are all to blame for what they have experienced. Because through their stupid attitude against me and my contacts, they would have directly provoked you to demonstrate your jet ship to them.
Then you told them about me?
Of course, it was unavoidable. So I told them everything, how it happened, that you made your ship shine like a tree of light and flew past under their noses.
The whole thing frightens me, and besides, it is very unfortunate and I feel very concerned. That is probably also the case with you, which is why you called me so urgently. It is surely a matter of concern to you that I should do something and sort everything out again. Indeed, I am deeply saddened and also shocked that my demonstration has had such a negative effect on the man. This obliges me to do something to repair the damage I have caused. I neither considered nor expected such a bad reaction.
Unfortunately, such reactions are common among many Earth humans. Surely you can still remember what I once told you about Mr. Jost and Mr. Meyer, who wanted to kill themselves because they were watching beamships in the sky and got scared, after which I explained to them what it was all about. You may remember, Mr. Meyer shot himself in the chest with a Flaubert rifle and became crippled, while Mr. Jost jumped off a 12-meter-high bridge in Goldau and broke all his bones, but escaped with his life and was able to work as a truck driver again. When he was in hospital in Zug, the head physician there phoned me that Mr. Jost was asking for me, whereupon Jacobus drove me there in his VW, where I was able to talk to the man and take away his fear of the extraterrestrials. I am sure you still remember everything about the man who worked in Schmidruti as a security guard in the army compound and constantly harmed us by constantly cutting the tops of the trees at night and peeling the bark from the trunks when we planted new ones. He constantly berated, scolded, and cursed me, our center, and everything we did to fulfill our mission. Then it happened one night that above the rear hill near the air tower he unexpectedly met the giant Andron, which the man unfortunately could not cope with, so that he knew nothing else to do but to shoot a bullet in the head, in his budding fear, and in the knowledge that I was no swindler and no fraud, as he always said, in the guardroom of the army building. Well, it is the same with many other Earth humans. They are simply afraid of extraterrestrials and of the unknown, which often leads to the fact that they would rather kill themselves than face the effective truth. In many cases, the lying religions and sects are also behind this, as in the present case. On the other hand, there are also the so-called UFO sects, such as the Rael sect, through which people are driven into the craziest beliefs and heresies and become estranged to the truth and the reality. But what do you want to do about Mr. S, so that he gets rid of his delusion and his fear and madness? You have the directives that you have to follow, and you cannot simply break or circumvent them. Incidentally, contrary to their earlier promise, people no longer want me to mention their names in the bulletin and the sighting report. Now they only agree with the first letters of their names.
This is understandable after all you have explained to me. For my part, I will help the man concerned in such a wise that I will remove all memory of his experience from his mind. He will no longer be able to remember anything related to the experience and its consequences. I will remove the memory of this experience immediately after I have left you. He is still in a coma, as you say, and that is just as well and makes my task easier. That I could come into conflict with our directives, you need not worry about that. Actually, it was a careless mistake on my part which I have to correct and rectify again so I do not violate the directives. The mistake I made does not constitute a violation of the directives either, but only a unconsidered inattentiveness on my part, in that I did not consider the consequences which could have been caused to the man. In fact, I was not aware that he is a religious man and lives in an unpredictable faith from which his fear and his erroneous view of the truth result. I could not know this because our directives prohibit us from intruding into the personality of any human life form, and thus into their very own thoughts and emotions in order to fathom them. So I had no knowledge of his fanatical beliefs and expected him to be able to cope with the demonstration with, which I wanted to give the three of them proof that they had behaved wrongly with regard to your person and your work, and your statements and photos, etc. It should also be a help for you.
Well, that was a shot in the dark, unfortunately. And help, dear friend, you do not have to ask for it from me, because whether some more nutcases, fantasists, cheats and swindlers as well as charlatans call me and expect me to do everything evil and impossible and blame me and slander me, etc., that leaves me cold and does not make my skin itch. I know what I know. I know what is the reality and truth and what is my task, to which I have committed myself with my promise, and this gives me the strength to parry or ignore all attacks and to remain faithful to my mission.
Now, retrospectively, I also see it thus. I mean the shot in the fog. But your other words say what I have always known. But now I will go, my friend, to make the necessary arrangements so that the man can lead his normal life again.
If religious madness and fanaticism and bondage and going astray can still be talked about normalcy, which, frankly, I doubt.
Then goodbye, my dear friend Edward. In the course of the early night I will visit you again to inform you of my success.
But the other two men and their wives should really be taboo as far as memories are concerned, because they seem to really handle the whole thing.
But you should keep silent towards the person concerned and not mention the incident anymore.
I will tell them that when they call me. Of course, I will also inform Mr. S that you will erase the memory of your demonstration from his brother's memory, because I think that he should know this in order to behave accordingly towards his brother afterwards. Then I will see you later in the evening. Sachlomie.
That is probably the right way. So do as you please. Goodbye.
See you tonight, then. Goodbye, 2307 Hers.
It is also cozy here in the arbor. Only the table is missing. Wolfgang's work is good, which he has done here. He is very talented. I like it all very much.
He is working on the table. Freddy is doing the base for it. But how far everything has progressed, I do not know. Anyway, it should be like Freddy said, that he has everything together to finish the table soon.
He is also very talented, imaginative, and hard-working. This is also to be said of Andreas, whose work and inventiveness are remarkable, which I like a lot.
We generally have good group members who have good ideas for work, etc., are very hard-working, and always make a great effort. But I am glad that you have waited for me here. It is a change from sitting around the house all the time.
If you like, we can meet outside more often. We can also fly here and there somewhere, which the others can do with you if you want.
I will think about that. Surely it will be good and nice to be able to go out with one of you again, no matter where. Just somewhere where one can be undisturbed. But now listen to what I have to tell you, because I already know that you have put everything back in order.
Then my explanation is superfluous. How did you find out then?
It was about 13:45 this afternoon when I was standing outside the aviary with Silvano when the phone rang. When it did not get picked up after ringing several times, because obviously nobody was in the house, I ran to answer the phone. Then Mr. S. was on the telephone, who told me that his brother was out of danger and had awakened from unconsciousness. And as it turned out by questioning the life-exhausted one, he knew nothing more about the whole incident. He simply had no memory of what he had experienced with his brother and friend above our center when you let them see your tree of lights. He did not even know why he was in the hospital in the first place, and that he had taken a whole box of sleeping pills to send himself to the next world. In the afternoon, he was taken to a psychiatric hospital for observation, where he will probably spend the next few weeks.
This unfortunate incident teaches me that you were right in your words, that many Earth humans are far from being rational in the wise that they acknowledge and become aware that not only has the Earth brought forth human life, but also have many other planets in the billions of galaxies in this and every other universe where there is a material belt. In the future, I will be much more careful and first make some allowed clarifications before I show myself. That is to say, before I show my flying apparatus again. But now, Edward, I would like to talk to you about things that are not intended to be regarded as official in the contact conversation.
As you wish, my friend. It is, as usual, a great pleasure and honor to have you, Venerable One, at my side as a conversation partner.